The Philadelphia Phillies have evened up the NLDS series at 1 win apiece and are taking things back to New York, where they hope to either end the series in front of the opposing fans or return for Game 5 right back at the bank. However, in these first 2 games, a notable flaw was exposed in this Phillies team that I do not think we were expecting. I want to talk about this Phillies bullpen, why I am so concerned with it, and why it is a serious issue. They have not been able to weather the Mets' late game magic in either of the first 2 games of the series. Now, this bullpen has been terrific for the entirety of the season. And to touch on a couple of these names, looking at the postseason roster here, we're talking about Jeff Hoffman, Carlos Estevez, Orion Kirkring, Jose Ruiz, Matt Strahm, Jose Alvarado, Tanner Banks, and Colby Allard were the official decisions to officially represent this Phillies team out of the pen here. The atmosphere of playoff baseball is a different beast. And while each of these guys have been great in their own individual ways throughout the regular season, it is a different outlook that things do possess, and we have not seen these guys raise up to that overall. And if you want to use another example around the MLB, just look no further than the Tigers and Guardians game. Emmanuel Clase had not given up a home run to a left-hander all year, and there he is blowing the lead for his team in that game tonight. Now, as far as this Phillies team, I think my personal frustration here is this has been a point that I've hammered home here, is my belief in this bullpen is far greater than it has been for the past 2 seasons. That the optionality that they have, not the clear linear path, or, they're just a higher quality selection of arms that Topper has to choose from. And to put it out on the table right now, this is not a Rob Thomson issue whatsoever. He's choosing the right guys. He's putting the guys that he believes should be capable of stepping up, the Matt Strahms of the world, the Jeff Hoffmans of the world, and it just has not worked out here. Now, I do want to reflect on exactly what went down with each of these. So I'm going to start off by pulling up a couple things here. We'll start off with breaking down what kind of the stats here. And this article from NBC Philly writing, and the burning issue of relievers. So good for so much of the regular season, so problematic the last few weeks. It's harder to get around than a stalled big rig in the middle of a one-lane country bridge. All-star right-hander Jeff Hoffman, 4 earned runs allowed in the final outing of the regular season, 3 more without retiring a batter in Game 1. All-star left-handed reliever Matt Strahm, 2 games, 1 inning, 4 earned runs since the playoffs started. And to extend on that and elaborate, we have acquired at the deadline to pitch in save situations. Right-hander Carlos Estevez pitched a shutout 8th inning in Game 2, but was scored on in 3 of his last 6 regular season appearances. Right-hander Orion Kirkring, advertised as a closer in waiting, a 5.40 earned run average in the 2 NLDS games, more than twice the 2.29 he posted during the regular season. Throw in Jose Ruiz and Tanner Banks, each with a 9 ERA. Add it all up, and it comes to a composite 15 ERA for the relievers. Yes, 2 games is a small sample size, but the pen also had a 4.93 ERA in the last 13 games of the regular season, allowing at least 1 run in 8 games. Now, to dive into the specifics of how things went down, we don't have to dive too deep into this because we do all remember it quite clearly, more than I would like to. But when talking about Game 1 of this series, Zack Wheeler pitched an absolute gem, going these 7 scoreless innings in the way that he did. And to bring an even more depressing stat up here, we're talking about that Zack Wheeler has made 3 NLDS starts with the Phillies. He's pitched a combined 19.1 innings in those starts and has only allowed 8 hits and 5 earned runs, which comes out to a 2.32 ERA. The Phillies have lost all 3 of those games. And to take it a step further, Jeff Hoffman has been the losing pitcher in 2 of those games. Now, to reflect on Game 1 specifically here, it was Wheeler going 7 scoreless, and then you see the variety of other pitchers just not getting the job done. It was Jeff Hoffman getting first dibs at it, and I do think that was the correct decision there, because that is your guy. That is the guy that me and Luke sat up here on this channel ranking the relievers. Who do we have the most faith in? And Jeff Hoffman was each of our number 1 here, but he was unable to even record an out against this Mets team, ultimately allowing 3 earned runs there, 2 of them while he was officially pitching, and I believe Strahm came in to allow another one of those. Strahm only getting 1 out himself, and then Orion Kirkring it was to close down the inning, who also didn't look overly impressive in that. And then in the final inning, it was Tanner Banks, kind of a burner inning there. But then flash forward to Game 2, and kind of a similar issue, that Sanchez gave you 5 strong innings, allowing just 2 runs. And that was not enough, that this offense still has to wake up as well, and we will touch on that in a second. But look at these late games inning. 1 run in the 6th, 1 run in the 7th, 2 runs in the 9th, that being Matt Strahm again. That kind of stuff just can't happen in this type of playoff atmosphere. And I understand the Mets are clearly making it a point to capitalize in the late innings. That has been their vibe, their thing, their defining trait as a team, is they're going to battle until that very last out. You have to be aware of that. You have to respect that about it. But the bottom line is this is an internal thing that these pitchers have to step up. Now, from the Phillies' perspective as a whole here, you don't have much option. These are your guys. These have been the vehicles, the players that have got you here. You have to ride with them until the wheels fall off, even if that is exactly what's going on right now. And to look at the stats on the season, they don't lie here. That Jeff Hoffman, 66.1 innings pitched, 89 strikeouts, just 48 hits allowed. That's just 6.5 hits per 9 innings there, a 2.17 ERA, a whip of .967. Same with Matt Strahm. To pull up his numbers, we're talking about 62.2 innings pitched, just 4 home runs allowed, 79 strikeouts, just 36 hits. 1.87 ERA and a .750 whip. These aren't just the best relief pitchers on the Phillies. These are guys who have a case for the best relievers in baseball throughout most of the season. But as I mentioned, the MLB playoffs are a different beast, and clearly things are not going right for this team. Now, the guy that I want to bring in here is a little bit of an X factor. It's Jose Alvarado. That this has been a guy who, at certain points, has been looked at as the most important reliever in the Phillies bullpen during previous years of the run. We have yet to see him pitch in this year's playoffs, and I'm really curious what that's going to look like. Now, what I personally like about Alvarado is when he is locked on, he is one of the most dominant pitchers in the sport. You straight up are not touching him in the plate, and that is what I like in a reliever. That's kind of one of my critiques of Carlos Estevez, is he is the guy that'll play with his food a little bit. He'll allow a runner on. He'll allow you to pop out, fly out, ground out. I like my closers, and why I've always been an Alvarado guy is when he's locked on, you're not touching it. That's what I like in a closer. I understand it is a rare breed, and they're harder and harder to find, but I would like to see if we can get a little bit of that Alvarado magic. And for what it's worth, this to me I take as a good thing, is you can tell when Alvarado doesn't have it right away. When he's comes in the game and cannot find the strike zone for the first 3 pitches, bring in another reliever, because that is the exact sign there. And as I mentioned, like it's crystal clear whether or not he has it from the opening minutes there. I would like to see what Jose Alvarado can do for this team, and I do hope that in Game 3 that he is stepping on the mound. Bring him into the jungle, into Citi Field. He can take it. I know Jose can. But for this team as a whole, I also think that we got to throw a little more blame on the bats. That as much I want to critique this relievers, and it will continue to be an issue, they got to make up for it. That it's this one way or another battle. That this Phillies team at their core, this foundation of what they were built, is to mash home runs and score. That's been what it is. But if you date back to the Rhys Hoskins era, the Kyle Schwarber coming in, bringing in a bunch of guys that have primarily played DH because of their numbers, the way that they can hit, and then only investing more to bring in the Trey Turners of the world and these other pieces that can take you over the edge. There has not been enough offense, and that truly is the bigger issue here, that's what needs to change entirely. But the bottom line is you got to get through all 9 innings, and it is unfair to believe, especially in this day and age, that your starter can remotely be capable of bringing you along that far into a game. And for what it's worth, I've been completely satisfied, more than satisfied, with what we've got from the starting pitchers so far. Zack Wheeler cannot overstate how elite he was in Game 1. That was an ace performance. He did every bit of it, and that just straight up should be a win for your team. That one falls on the bullpen. You have to find a way to close things out. A 2-0 run, while you would like a little more run support, no doubt about it, you just got to be able to take care of that, and the Phillies have not been able to. So heading into Game 3, there's got to be some changes. There aren't these Rob Thomson, pull some different strings, change the rotation, or whatever you want to argue here. It's on these guys to deliver. That, in my eyes, Rob Thomson has done 0 wrong so far. I like the benching of Bohm yesterday. I think the critique of Thomson over the past 2 playoffs has been his unwillingness to try things, to tweak the lineups, his dying loyalty to each of these guys, that I like that there was a little bit of wake-up call sent to the all-star third baseman's direction here. That Thomson has not been a part of these equations for these games falling apart. So hopefully, heading into Game 3, that there can be a bit of a better performance here. We got Aaron Nola on the hump, a guy who on many teams would be the clear-cut ace. The Phillies just happen to have Zack Wheeler on this roster as well, but he's a guy who is right in that same conversation. 199.1 innings pitched on the season, a 3.57 ERA, 189 hits allowed here, less than a hit per inning there. He is a guy that's going to have a lot of pressure on him. He's a big game pitcher, and Rob Thomson has said nothing but to gas him up here. But there are some concerns in the back of my mind that it is not Nola I'm worried about. It's those other innings once he cannot go any longer. I think the game will be won or lost within those 6, 7, 8, 9 innings. Probably the 8, 9 innings truly, as have been the case in the first 2 games of this series. Hopefully Nola can be the vehicle to get them there, but if this bullpen can't keep the Band-Aid on, can't keep things from falling apart, we are basically packing things up for the playoffs here. So hopefully games 1 and 2 were the wake-up call that Matt Strahm and Jeff Hoffman needed. That Strahm, I think in particular, I do believe in to brush it off, for him to only be more fiery, more competitive the next time he's on the mound. But it does bring a lot of doubt in your head. And I think, especially from the Mets perspective here, once you hit these guys once, your confidence is growing a ton. So for me personally, that's my number one fear for how this team is currently falling apart. But I do want to hear from you guys. Are you as concerned as I am, or am I making a bigger deal about this than should be the case? Where would you rank the bullpen versus the hitters for where the blame falls on why this team has not fully exceeded expectations here, for why they are sitting at 1-1 and not 2-0, up 2-0 in the series? And there could very well be a case in which they had lost both of those games and we'd be in full disaster mode. But ultimately, we will see what happens when things go down. That there is game 3 in New York tomorrow. That is going to play a huge role in who wins this series. I'm not going to say it is decided in that one, because I do feel like this series, unfortunately, may be destined to go 5 games here, but we need the bullpen and everyone else on this Phillies team to dig a little deeper tomorrow. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Once again, appreciate each and every one of you guys for tuning in. Make sure you smash that subscribe button if you haven't already. Drop a like on this video, and I'll be talking with you next time right here on Phillies Digest. Peace.